Imagine that it is your first day at school and you just can't seem to take your eyes off of one person there. So pretty that you wonder how she is still single, but she seemed to be into you a little more than normal, and a beautiful and strange romance begins. The story begins where our main protagonist was staring at a beautiful girl right next to him, and his inner thoughts went wild as he reflected that every single feature of her face is beautiful. And from this side she is just perfect. Is thinking all of this during an opening ceremony of his school, and he couldn't help but stare at her, praying that she should be in his class. The girl notices the boy staring at her from the side. As she spins around to see him clearly as well, the girl waved back at him with her detached arm, and the other side of her face seemed to be covered. She grinned back at him and the boy's eyes widened. Later, the ceremony took longer than expected, and as he was going to his class, he couldn't help but wonder what his high school life was going to look like, and strangely remembered the sight he saw earlier of the girl. While all other students were busy chattering and making friends, he couldn't get the thought of her out of his head, and it made him intrigued as he wondered what happened to her. Suddenly, from the back, someone called out to him, and he spun around in panic, only to be poked by a finger. The girl from earlier sneaked right behind him and asked him why he was looking at her so intensely. As she asked him twice, the boy broke down and confessed that he was in fact staring at her. And with a trembling and loud voice, he let her know that he didn't mean to do that in a harmful or disgusting way. As their conversation was being heard by others and other people seemed to notice the girl's scar, she proposed that they must take a walk together, and he agreed. As they walked together, he reflected that one side of her is covered with a big scar. There is also no eye, and her arm, too, is not there. With a sad expression, he thought to himself that it must have felt very uncomfortable for him to stare at her. And the girl interrupts him by blandly telling him that he fell in love with her at first sight and she caught him red-handed. As he panicked to hear this, the girl leaned on him, telling him that her one side was famous for being beautiful. As she brought her face close to him, he couldn't help but notice that she smelled nice and was sure that her self-esteem was at an all-time peak, and her behavior was somewhat like a gal. As the classroom bell rang, he reflects that he found her very pretty, but he is wary that he must have come off as creepy. The girl walks away from him and tells him that they are going to be in different classes. As she stares at him, she introduces herself as Hasumi Rei from class 2, and he introduced himself as Matsuda Haruto from class 3. As both of them with totally different personalities meet one another, Haruto couldn't seem to believe the words that Rue told him. While leaving, she told him that she will see him after school. Time passed and the final school bell rang. While Haruto got up, thinking that the periods and studies were more intense than he thought, he was not able to make any friends there. As he left, it seemed he was just an invisible person who no one even knew existed. He was sure that these years were going to be dull, and he would be treated like a social outcast. Once again, as he was walking right next to Rei's class, he muttered to himself that there is no way she meant what she said earlier about both of them meeting one another. Strange gossip and chatters were coming out of her class. And there we see that Rei was a topic of conversation among everyone. It seemed like she was avoided by everyone, and they seemed to pity her and talked about her behind her back. Some even considered her to be scary and creepy. Roy was silent and stunned by all of this, as this was not something that happened to her for the first time, and she notices that Haruto was standing there. Her whole demeanor changes as she realizes that he was standing there, and she runs towards him with a big bright smile, yelling, "You should have told me that you were going to arrive." Her entire mood had changed and her joy was uncontainable. While holding his hand, she tells him, "Let's go home." It seemed like her first day at school was very difficult, and Haruto being there helped her brighten up. Haruto replied okay with a slight stutter, and both were leaving the school and he seemed to walk behind her. She notices this and tells him that on the way home, let's stop by a place that I want to go with you. While hesitating, he agrees to go, and inside his mind he was going crazy wondering what was to happen. They barely even knew each other and this was happening too fast. Finally they reached the place where she wanted to visit, and it turned out to be a park where they were sitting on a saisuwa. Roy was enjoying herself and her was somewhat shy and sat there silent as she was all chatters and talk. He muttered to himself if this is a date or something like that, and if she likes playing at a children's park. Rui with a painful voice tells him that she has always admired the seesaw at the park because no matter how hard you try, you cannot play on them alone. As she said this, Haruto thought about it, wondering if she was not able to make a single friend. Roy points at a spinning wheel and exclaims that she wants to try that. Hiro hesitates at first and then joins her. And a few students from the back recognize Rei and gossip amongst themselves if Haruto was her boyfriend. One of the people said a hurtful thing, mocking Haruto for having a fetish for girls like Rei. As their laughter was loud and she heard them as well, she stood there. It was clear that she felt pain and was deeply hurt by their words. She glances at him and tells him that she is sorry these types of things happen a lot around her. And with a firm voice, he tells her that he doesn't care what people behind their back talk about her and her appearance. He doesn't mind the fact that they are dating as well. As she heard this, all her painful smile went away for some time. And while grabbing onto the wheel, she climbs on it and tells him, "Would you like to go out with me then if you are not worried about the rumors of any kind?" Hearing this, he blushes and she bursts into laughter, telling him, "Wouldn't you yourself think that it would be better this way, as tomorrow it could be a rumor of us being together?" While panicking, he is not sure what to say and how to claim such a beautiful offer. Rui snaps the opportunity and tells him that she was joking, and she reflects that the moment they met, he was never comfortable with eye contact. She adds that he is also so nervous around her. As she was saying all of this, her hand ends up slipping and she was about to fall. Haruto notices and immediately rushes to catch her. And as he embraces her tightly, he asks if she is okay. Roy adds that he has never made eye contact with her. Realizing that he has been holding her for a while, he panics and lets her go and apologizes for holding her so tight for that long. He answers that the real reason he can't make eye contact with her or anyone else is because of something that happened to him in the past. As he was about to mention what happened to him a few years ago, we get a flashback where a few bullies caused Haruto to become a timid and fearful boy. The bullies disliked it when he would stare at them and they would beat and harass every element of his existence. It came to such a point that he began to fear everything. As Haruto didn't answer and instead was lost in thoughts, Roy asks if he is okay, and understanding that he finds it hard to talk, she asks him if his past is the reason that he walks on the blind spot of her. Realizing this fact, he apologizes again and she tells him that Haruto can be her safety for the blind spot she has and it will be useful that way. And with a beautiful and hopeful expression, she tells him that their compatibility is perfect. Both had scars and wounds from the past that brought them to this stage of life. And it seemed that something sparked in both of them. She asks him to be his friend as she wants to be his, and every action of her filled Hiro with anxiety. But strangely he felt happy. Their time together increased as both started to become closer to one another. All of his flaws were slowly acquired by her, who threw all of them in the trash. His self-doubt, inferiority complex, his excessive self-consciousness, everything was accepted by her. And he confesses that with her he forgets that he is a loser. Time brought both of them closer. And one day both of them were busy trying to win a plush toy from the claw machine. After countless tries, Hiro was able to win one, and Ri exclaims as she asks him to give her a high five. They had the best time of the day, and with a bland tone, Hiro tells her that finally he has gotten it. It is time for them to go home. Roy hugs the toy tightly near her chest and tells him, "This is mine now." She was so happy to have it that Haruto himself couldn't help but smile at her. All the time he thought of dealing with people as troublesome. But having her with him he has found to be a blessing. As they decided to go back home, he was truly glad to have her near him. Suddenly, Haruto peeks next to him to see a tall student standing there. And as he seemed to recognize him, he remembered that he is the bully who made his life hell. The bully himself notices him and with a finger points calls him by his nickname, Autismo Matsumoto. Haruto heard this in fear. He frowned and Roy tells the bully that his name is Matsuda and shakes his pointing finger, telling him, "Didn't your parents teach you not to point fingers at people? It is rude." The bully asks if Rui was her girlfriend. And as he notices the burnt scar and no arm, he bursts into laughter and tells Haruto that he has a freaky taste in women. As he heard this, Haruto mustered the courage to say something and step ahead of Rui. But the bully interrupts him by telling him that he is almost mute. It is too difficult to hear him. Despite all these years, he was still unable to speak loudly. The bully started to show his dominance and belittled Haruto. Something changed in him as he remembered how people always treated Rui, and he muttered to the bully, "You too." Finally mustering the courage, Haruto faced his fear with a thunderous voice and told him that being rude and hurting people without hesitation. "You are the one most bad at communication. You are no better than me. How does it feel to be finally what you are?" As he said this while looking at him with a serious expression, Ray notices this, and the bully gets ticked off and grabs him by his collar, telling him that he dared to compare himself with him. As he grabbed Haruto, he knew that getting hit is what will be coming next. He is finally free of the doubt and breaks down inside that he is a loser and will always be one, no matter how hard he tries. As he said this, Roy lets out a laugh and smacks the bully in the head and knees him down to the ground. And while mocking him, she tells him that he is the biggest for being beaten by a girl with only one arm. As Haruto let out a laugh of relief, it was clear that Roy was strong. She laughed it off in that situation, and later both of them were at the same park where they met during their first interaction. Roy was so happy and reminded him that his bully made the most funny face as she asks him what his thoughts are. He was silent and re-asked if he is angry that she hit his old friend in the face, and he replies that is not the case. In fact, he was happy to see his bully get hit in the face hard. He reflected that he was shocked when he was about to hit him, and earlier he had thought that he was improving. But as soon as he was ready to punch me, everything crumbled down. Even though I made the effort to stare at him and shout, I quickly realized that I am a loser and I had made a mistake to confront him. And he finally shared his deepest feeling, telling her that when he saw Roy standing there in the class, he looked down on her and was relieved that maybe he was needed. As tears started to roll from his face with a trembling voice, he tells her that he is sorry and he is a pathetic loser. And Ray, instead of blaming him, tells him that she is happy to hear his real feelings. And without a hint of anger or anything, she gave him a bright and beautiful smile that could heal any pain and told him that it is always difficult to escape from our feelings. So it is better not to hide them. As he looked at her eyes, he could not believe the purity and sparks. As he wiped his eyes, she adds that she herself hid her feeling from him. When she first saw him, she thought that he is going to be meek and harmless, and she was sure that Haruto would treat her normally despite the flaws in her body. As she tells him that they are a pair made in heaven, both of them look down on each other when they met, and Hiro asks what happened to her arm and face, and she replies that she won't tell him. She smiled and adds that Haruto needs to gain more favorable points for that story to start, letting him know that there are still stages that they need to explore for her to open to him. As they both laughed, realizing that hiding feelings is harder than telling them, both found each other and healed from the past. Later, as they were traveling back and it seemed like both exchanged their contact details with each other, and Rui added that it is time for them to call each other by their first names, it was much easier for Rui. But Haruto struggled the most. Both started to call each other by their first name. And now he was sure that he is in fact in love with her and won't be able to say it out loud ever. If you enjoyed diving into this manga with me, don't forget to smash that like button. It helps more than you know.